Okay, the DIPAM secretary is speaking right now. A big target for strategic disinvestment in budget. We as well have been on top of this story. Let's listen into what he has to say.
Share values are good. Investors are interested in them. And if we come out with issues or IPOs or FPOs, I think they will be, investors will be enthused. And here I would also like to point out that some people think that, as if, we're trying to manage our issues only to LICs and so on. Well, that's not true. Because we found out that, huge amount of, when we are doing our issues, LIC is now relatively minor player. It's a pretty, they just do it on their own stuff. So we don't have to just, ring up LIC all the time and tell them, you please subscribe. So the issues have to fly on their own merits. The companies have to fly on their own merits. And for that also the company management need to change, and they also have to have, in fact, what we are trying to, we are suggesting change in the MOU conditions of those PSUs, where at least the management have a very clear idea of return on capital employed. I think we would like to have a target of return on capital employed for the management, so that they keep the shareholders in mind all the time. We would like to have a consistent dividend policy, so that the investors they know that that these dividends are going to come. So of course, many of the PSU stocks we found the dividend yield is very high, but still the price to earning ratio which is not good. So we have to see there are also a certain kind of a market perception about the PSUs in many a time, in which those market perceptions need to be corrected, because engagement process is there, more autonomy, more professional management. These are of course the issues where DIPAM can actually persuade, like Champion, with the other departments like administrative departments in the DPE, and we are trying to do that. As I said, the strategic disinvestment completion transaction, completing what we have done, is quite a matter of priority, and also building up a healthy pipeline. And these are the kind of things with it. Then of course, listing of unlisted enterprises. They said that there are, of course, not many are left out actually, but as I said, the biggest one, the cat is now out of the bag with FM's announcement on LIC. I think this has been a very bold decision, and LIC is now has to be prepared for that IPO. The process is already set into motion. We have already advertised. The transaction advisor, pre-IPO advisor is being done to look at every issue which is there. There is a lot of preparation for this IPO, but it will be a very, very good step for the economy, because in terms of LIC's own health, as well as availability of LIC's sharing of LIC's wealth with the investors, with shareholders in an IPO, would also be a very important beginning on this regard. So these are my comments, initial comments. And now I think, if you permit that, we can, I can close my remarks here, and then we can welcome questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was very comprehensive. In fact, I was looking at my chat box and the questions. It sounded to me that all those questions were presented to you directly, and you answered all of them in your presentation. Literally everything, and I'm plugging like 10%, and these are from media as well as from the other participants. There's one other area which a number of people have talked about, and Rashesh did touch upon in the beginning. And so just before your session, we had the benefit of listening to the Chief Economic Advisors today. He also mentioned about the importance of the large size bank, consolidation of the bank. I totally understand that there is another department of the government which is also involved in this, because that's a Department of Banking Financial Services, which is involved in this. Would you want to, because there are a number of questions which has come up here. I believe there was some announcement or some press around this today. Would you want to throw some comments on this one? On the banking sector consolidation, the large size bank, privatization of bank, all of that clubbed together?
No, I mean, for example, FM also mentioned about the IDBI bank, that was also announced in the budget. So, IDBI bank typically today is listed as a private bank with 51% equity from LIC and about 47% of the government. This is, and IDBI is to, that is already announced. So, this is a company. So, and then of course there are other banks where under the Bank Nationalisation Act or things like that, where the legislative changes etc. would also be necessary. But we are very closely working with the Department of Financial Services, and I think a general framework, the general framework will be the same as FM announced, which is really in works, which will be out soon. It will actually unveil, what is the kind of sectors that we are there. As I said, the crux of the policy is that private sector should be there in all sectors, including strategic sectors. So therefore, it is not that strategic sectors will be reserved for public sector. No way. That means even in some areas, of course, very, very limited areas now remain. Private sector is allowed everywhere now. Of course, there could be some specific legislation where a certain FDI limit is there, or something is there, or maybe if it is, maybe in atomic energy, or maybe in some way, even space, for example, there was an opening where private sector was going. So therefore, the idea is that if you have a strategic sector, private sector will be allowed in all the things. So it is not that on their own they can come. But if the existing public sector enterprises, you only retain some and balance could be privatized or consolidated. So therefore, the idea is that you are trying to give more space to private sector in terms of brownfield investments of, once these, the enterprises, they are strategically privatized. So it is that basically, as I said, that creating that pipeline where you have, and I think once you have a stronger pipeline, the government does need resources. So therefore, there's always off questions, that you have a fiscal and you have to start it and how, because the government also needs this. But at the same time, what we have to say is that we are actually selling at the right value, and we have got a healthier pipeline, and we have got some strategic disinvestments taking place on regular basis. So a certain number, because the strategic disinvestment actually does not disturb the market. In fact, it aids the market, because what it is basically doing is the control is getting passed on. The control is getting passed. Whereas when you are, repeated issues, if you are trying to do beyond a point, you are in any case will hit the limit. In order to remain public sector, you should have certain holdings. You keep on chipping out, and you will hit the limit. So therefore, unless and until we build up this kind of a second line, where we are able, and this second line should be revenue yielding. Because it can't be simply that, I can't manage, or somehow you want to do that. That means I should get a good amount of money for my shares, which means that I should be selling the assets which the private sector and investors are willing to invest in, so that they will offer me the share value I am looking for. And therefore, I will get the receipts. But I will get the receipts by passing on from public sector to private sector. It remains in our economy, it aids Atma Bharat, because then it grows. So the idea is, Atma Bharat means growth. You get into all the products, import substitution product, new technologies within the boundaries of India. It can be done through FDI, it can be done through domestic investors, but it has to be within the domestic thing. And for that to happen, I must provide not only the greenfield opportunities but also the brownfield opportunities. And therefore, there is also an issue of more and more asset monetization. How does the different departments they do the asset monetization? Because if they have certain idle assets, the departments, if they try to put those assets out to this thing, be it land, be it something other things. So that's something also being promoted, and so that the departments they have a certain target and certain things of trying to do asset monetization, because certain amount of receipts also can come from asset monetization. But everything has to be related to the market. But if you have a healthier pipeline, number one, and secondly, greater capacity in the system to do things, and third, the greater engagement with the private sector and investors, so that they can come and pick up, they can come and bid. If I go out and bid, if I ask for an EOI, there should be, people should be responding.
Yeah.
So all these three things, if it happens in a healthier economy, then I think privatization of Indian economy will proceed at a much better pace. We will also get resources. I think that is the whole idea of this Atmanirbhar Bharat project.
So just to, I'm just clarifying because there are a number of questions on this, that in this strategy which is articulated with under the Finance Minister also articulated, where in the core sectors also privatization will happen, and government can take a view that some of the companies may continue to be under the government control. Banking also falls under that, right? Because that's the question. Will there be a privatization in the banking sector also? So that's what a number of people are trying to ask.
No, I mean, as I said, that I would not jump the gun till the whole approvals are in place. But as I said, that if you can find out from what I said, it is a broader vision. It is not just restricted to, as I said, commercial enterprises. So it is not necessarily, it is restricted to A or B or C. It's a broader vision.
So there are a number of questions on oil and gas, PSUs and LIC, and also those who have addressed in NPS, HPCL, BPCL, and NBCL, a number of questions. There's one completely differentiated, and I'll probably take that as a last question. I'm mindful of it, and we started a bit late. So there is one question, and the thought is that economic survey, which was presented pre-budget in different environment, had a full chapter on this investment privatization strategy and the methodology, and that was really recommendatory in terms of a holding company structure and things like that. Is there any thinking of the government to pick up from there and think about or implement some of those?
No, I mean, we are looking into it, but I think we need to have a bit of a clarity on, holding company, what are the objectives.
Good.
Now, unless you do a holding company, then you have clear objectives. What do you want it? So, if you do not have clear objectives, just merely, because, for example, Temasek model. If you look at the Temasek model, there are certain pros and cons of that model. This model has developed over a long period of time. There has been a legislation. Via legislation, this government equity has been transferred to Temasek institution. It is more like an investment vehicle. It is actually not a disinvestment vehicle. Because for your information, in Singapore, it is a completely different thing as compared to India. India, we always, give a lot of premium to privatization. We think that, privatization is a reform. Singapore doesn't think that way, because Singapore, whether it is Changi Airport or we have a Singchel or others, they are very much in the thing, and they think that they are, just like a private sector. So for them, this public-private is completely, they look at the enterprises. But here we have a certain, certain kind of a thing, we don't look at the enterprise, rather we look at it, privatization per se is considered a reform and because it adds value and other, and we have been also saying so. Because one of the reasons is that in the public sector space we have constrained our.
Okay, well, there you have it. That's, of course, the DIPAM secretary talking about the target for the strategic disinvestment. Remember, we at ET now have been on top of the story. We've been talking about OMCs like a BPCL, of course, which Rajesh Sharma broke earlier. We also do have other stocks like Concord, and then of course Ruchi Bhatia talking about PSU banks being on the radar. So this is the DIPAM secretary giving a roadmap of sorts for divestment. We'll do one thing, we'll take a very short break right here on the show.